the Ordnance, quick-fire 13-pounder, and 18-pounder. These were distinct but related British artillery pieces, with the 13-pounder designed for the Royal Horse Artillery and the 18-pounder for the Royal Field Artillery. They each fire a 13-pound or 18-pound shell. Both guns were developed around the same time and entered British service in 1904. At the start of World War I, the QF-18 was Britain's primary artillery piece. In 1914, Britain had 1,225 QF-18s and would produce 9,908 during the war, along with near 7,000 carriages. The smaller QF-13 saw only about 416 produced aircraft variants. Both were excellent guns for their intended purpose, but the sharp decline in use of the QF, this would later be improved to 37 degrees for the quick-fire 18. The main shell for the guns at the start of the war was also the shrapnel shell. These guns were excellent direct-fire guns, accurate, designed to take on advancing troops within a 6-kilometer range. The 18-pounder shrapnel shell contained 374 musket balls. Gunners would sight their targets and adjust elevation for the shells to explode at around 90 feet or less, overhead and in front of enemy troops. Shells would burst, with shrapnel taking on a cone-like pattern, flying down and forward from the burst location due to the shell's construction and the rotation of the shell. These British guns at the start of the war were typically positioned ahead of infantry, designed to support and protect them with direct fire. This could be particularly devastating against advancing enemy infantry, as the guns could fire 8 rounds a minute to an impressive 20 rounds a minute with a well-trained crew, essentially filling the air with constant, raining shrapnel. Key to the performance of these guns was the breech block. The recoil system, which is housed above the barrel, is a hydro-spring recoil system. Recoil is dampened via a piston moving through an oil reservoir, and then springs collect the recoil energy, which is used to run out the barrel back to its original firing position. The system was a bit sensitive, and the rope you see often around it added protection. Many guns would be upgraded to a hydro-pneumatic system by war's end. These guns were in contrast to Germany's artillery doctrine at the start of World War I. Germany had mobile guns, but also a significant amount of howitzers to be used for indirect fire from behind infantry in cover, able to take on fortifications and dug-in infantry. German howitzers fired more slowly and were not as good at targeting troops out in the open, but they fired more powerful high-explosive rounds and at a greater range, which detonated on contact. This allowed them to destroy enemy gun positions, such as forward-placed British guns. The British 13 and 18-pounder guns did have some protection with an armored forward shield. The limbers also had some armor and were designed to be positioned to further protect the gun crews, but this only protected them from direct fire. As World War I evolved into a war of trenches, artillery was almost entirely used in the indirect fire role, giving Germany an early advantage. The accuracy of these British guns soon meant little. Between trench lines, accuracy was obtained through volume, with an estimated 1.5 billion artillery shells exchanged on the Western Front alone. The British 18-pounder had to adapt, but was never as proficient in this role. The single pole trail used by these guns was one hindrance for the gun obtaining sufficient elevation for the plunging fire required for shells to land in enemy trenches. Crews often dug their pole trails into the earth to better elevate the guns. Starting in late 1914, all such guns began using high-explosive shells, and so began the long-range artillery duels of the war. Gunners killed and were killed by an enemy they only knew about from a map and reports by forward observers. Both the 18-pounder and even 13-pounder were put to use during World War II, though in limited numbers. This included some 13-pounders being... Alright, I'm Johnny, thank you for watching. I do hope the video wasn't too much of a bore. I shall leave you with this poem that sums up the World War I artillery experience. And do take care, and have a nice rest of your day.
Oh, spiffing! Yes, let's hear that!
Boom, boom!